Michael Scheuer is the former CIA station chief of the bin Laden unit back in the 90s and a CIA analyst. He's worked in the CIA for over 20 years. He's retired now, and he largely in part was also retired. He left the CIA because of his criticism of Israel, actually, his stance on Israel. And he's given a lot of statements, and this is a resurfaced clip of him I was able to find. This clip was actually back in 2011, where he talked about how Israel just has to go. We have to get rid of Israel because simply it's a detriment to U.S. foreign policy and U.S. interests in the region. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this and let's talk about it.
Start.
And how about Israel?
Israel's got to go. You know, that's from my perspective, and you know, my opinion is worth exactly my opinion. But Israel is such a difficult question because even facts aren't facts. Israel, beyond a doubt, our relationship with the Israelis is a disaster for U.S. interests and policies in the Muslim world. Now, that's a fact. Whether you want to continue support for Israel or not is the discussion that needs to be made and decided not by me, but by Americans generally.
So I'm going to stop right there and we can talk about it a little bit more. I mean, first off, everything he said is just obviously true. When you have a one-sided relationship with a country and that country is intent on taking as much land as possible and also managing an occupation in the occupied West Bank, maintaining everybody in Gaza, also occupying Gaza in that way, blockading Gaza. When you have a country doing that and you're supporting it, the animosity towards that project that's doing all of that is now being also put on the country that's backing it. So clearly it's not in U.S. interests to support the project because you're going to export the anger that those people directed at Israel towards the United States. It just makes logical sense. Now, at the time, I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about people like him, other people like James Traficant, U.S. congressman that spoke out about this stuff very early on in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, before it was normalized to where we can talk about it now. And they really did risk it all. They lost their careers over it, but people were talking about it. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. And let's take a little bit more of a listen to the rest of to the rest of it here. And there we go. Let's see.
That needs to be made and decided not by me, but by Americans generally. But we never get that chance. And so now we're in the very ridiculous position of waiting for one morning to wake up and have 300 million of us at war with Iran because Netanyahu gets a little bit antsy. I said this morning, I was on TV, and I said, you know, what the president is not telling you.
So, I mean, it's funny because I actually didn't remember hearing that part where he said we're going to get tossed into war with Iran. And now here we are getting tossed into war with Iran because Israel brought us into this war. Now, he's still alive. I'm actually reaching out to him today. So fingers crossed that my profile, my account is big enough and professional enough for him to agree to interview. That would be pretty fun. But anyways, you know, everything he's saying is absolutely correct. So I have other videos here that I'm also going to play so that way you guys can hear it and just all of the ridiculous things really that's been tossed his way. So let me go ahead and play this for you guys as well. Take a listen.
That's a lobby doing what a lobby does, isn't it?
Well, that may be the case. Well, then I would argue that the fact that...
The tobacco lobby does what it does, the gun lobby does what it does, and the Israel lobby, whichever of the many groups it embraces, does what it does. That's the lobby system, isn't it?
Well, none of the other lobbies you mentioned, sir, do things that eventually rebound to America's harm. The Israeli lobby does exactly that.
And what exactly has the harm been?
What the Israeli lobby has done is to convince Americans, or have tried to convince Americans, that Israeli interests are identical with U.S. national security interests.
A lot of people would believe that to be true.
Well, a lot of people are foolish then, and leading America into defeat.
Michael Scheuer, thank you very much indeed.
The issue with the Israeli lobby is that it makes people believe that Israel's interests are analogous to the United States interests, and that's ultimately gonna bring us down a spiral. And what other country in the history, in all of recorded history, had a relationship where it basically needed to maintain another country? Countries can't afford to also keep alive a second country. That's not how it works. Israel is a second country that lives off of the United States, that could not be what it is today without the United States, and we have to maintain that. And then people question why things are going the way they are in the United States with the national debt and everything else. You know, empires on average last about 250 years. The United States is much younger than 250. Not the whole entire age of the United States, just when the beginning of the U.S. empire started, which didn't start until after World War II. That's when the U.S. empire started. So the same. Funny enough, exactly when Israel became a country. So the United States empire is around in its 80s now. It's just coming up on its 80th birthday soon. The average is 250 years, so we're still a pretty young empire. The reason ours is shortened a bit and we're starting to see fractures is because I don't know any other empire in the history of the planet that also had to maintain a whole separate country, aside from its own country, that had to maintain a whole separate project and then had to fight wars for that entire project, and then had to give aid to that country that has free healthcare, by the way, free education, and we have to maintain all of this. How is that beneficial to the United States at all? It's not. It's not only is it not beneficial, it's a major liability. So let me go ahead and play another clip here so that way for you guys to see as well. Let me share my screen and take a listen to this. There we go.
That's what Israeli prime ministers do to U.S. presidents. And what will happen in the Congress is...
of yours was listening.
Well, Netanyahu will just tell the president what to do and what not to do. That's what Israeli prime ministers do to U.S. presidents. And what will happen in the Congress is the congressmen and women who are owned or at least bribed by AIPAC and other U.S. citizen organizations that support Israel.
That's crazy. That's crazy. Sorry, it is a little bit glitchy there for you guys, but he said it himself. The Israeli prime minister will just tell U.S. presidents will just tell the U.S. president what to do because that's what Israeli prime ministers do. This is not just, this is not a tinfoil hat sort of person. This is a guy who was the CIA station chief of the Bin Laden unit in the United States. So this is not a nut job. This is somebody that knows things very, very well, and he had to resign largely in part because of all of this. So he's flat out saying, yeah, this is what Israeli prime ministers do. They control the global superpower of the United States. Why? Well, because they have the lobby. And they have organizations like the Anti-Defamation League and everything else. And this is what they simply do. This is how much power they have all over all of us. This is what they do. So he went ninja mode on Fox News. Acknowledge the chat, brother. Hey, thanks, Savage. I acknowledge the chat right now. So anyways, guys, that's it for this video here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you click the subscribe button and give it a thumbs up as well. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and have a great day. Bye.